Hello, today we're going to take a look at how Talent Insight can be used to interact with survey data from employee surveys such as engagement or pulse surveys. And what we're going to do is we're going to start interacting with the tool. Talent Insight, based on Watson Analytics, is meant to be a very interactive tool, and you'll see we have some guided suggestions in place in here in terms of questions that we can launch our inquiries with. But we're going to interact directly with Watson, and by clicking on the button it will take me down into the interface and allow me to start asking my natural language question. Watson Analytics, as Talent Insights, is a cognitive reporting engine that can infer my intent and the topic and the scope of my question based on my using just a natural language query. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a simple query here, and we'll start with some basic survey data. How many rows do we have, let's say, by geographical region? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we are going to enter that into the system. Now you'll notice that as I do that, the system is automatically prompting me with data that it already knows about, data that it has within its various and sundry data sets. Not only is it doing that, it is now cognitively looking at the data and the numbers of data sets that it may have within the system and allowing me to view and select the appropriate one. You'll notice that the relevancy is recorded in each one of these. I have got a little more detail around each of those data sets in terms of the information that is within them. And for today, we're just going to go ahead and use this sample survey data set. We're going to take a peek at that. So what it's doing here is it's instantly telling me the breakdown of my responses by region. And you'll see I've got in North America a little over 11,000 responses, and if I look down at Latin America, I've got about a little over 700. So again, the data is quickly returned to me. What else is happening in my visualization? Well, in the top you'll see that the system is, as part of that cognitive reporting capability, is highlighting some relationships that it's identifying in the data that it feels is interesting and it's bringing to my attention. Now these are areas that I may or may not be aware of. So in this case it's showing me that the accountability, the percentage of employees who agree around the trait of accountability is highest in Latin America at almost 78%, when we contrast that with Europe, where we're hitting in at just a fraction over 65% of employees in that region. So what the system is doing is based on a term we call interestingness in the data. It's bringing trends and relationships in the data that it feels are not explained by random variability or typically normally distributed information. But we'll come back to that in a moment. Let me take and look at some of the other functions that I have available in here. So what I've got is I've got a big block of data here from North America, but let's see if we can add a little more color and a little more detail to that. So you'll notice here on the right hand side I have the ability to add additional columns of data into my view in here, and all of the data that exists within my data set is available to me. So I'm just going to add a little more detail in here and take a look at it now from a country perspective. And you'll see it's starting to break down within each of those regions the different countries and how they are contributing. So now I can see at a glance that we've got about 1,400 or so responses from Germany. And if I take a look here from Mexico, again, we're running a little around 600 in that area. So now I have more detail brought into my, my distribution. But I've also simultaneously with that change the context of my question a little, because now I'm not looking at it just by region, I'm also looking at it by country, and Watson Analytics has taken a look at that change in context and notice that the recommended visualizations in the ribbon have now changed. So what it's telling me here is that the top country by the accountability percent agree is now Argentina. So it's changed it from a regional context to a country-specific context. And again, Argentina, it's being flagged here as an outlier. It's also highlighting in here that we have a similar outlier around the percent disagree by country, the inverse of that, which is we have a higher proportion of staff who disagree with the sentiment of there being accountability within the organization based on this. And you'll notice I have the ability to add each one of these in as a new visualization, which I will here in a sec. Let's take and adjust our visualization just a little bit further. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the context from a country-based one to more of a job type. So let's take a look at how this breaks down by region and by job type. Now, within my visualization in here, I have shop floor as one of my job types, and I have staff or office type roles. And again, this is again the categorization that we have set up within the data and within the survey structure. But now I'm able to see how that data breaks down by the split between staff and between office. Or I could take it a little bit further and I could break it down by ethnicity or by gender if I wanted to take a look at it in that area as well. But what if we want to go in a completely different direction? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a brand new inquiry in here. So I've got a little high-level data in here. I'm going to start a new inquiry, and you'll notice the system is automatically looking at my data set and recommending some areas where, again, it's picking up on interesting trends or interesting relationships in the data. But I'm just going to ask a natural language question of the system. So what I want to do is I want to look at manager effectiveness, and you'll see as I start to type, it's automatically prompting me with the data, and I'm going to look at the disagree element within that, and I want to look at it by a couple of dimensions. So I want to look at it by, let's say, gender and function. Okay, so now I have a variety of dimensions in my inquiry, and again the tool is now recommending that there are potentially different ways I could visualize this data as a bar chart, as a tree chart. Again, because I've got multiple dimensions in here, these are the ones that the tool is automatically picking up as the appropriate ways to represent this data. And when I look at that data, it breaks down my data into those dimensions: my gender, the candidates who are female, the individuals who are male, and the individuals who have declined to identify within the survey. And what it looks like as I look at this in here is there seems to be a few outliers within this set. For example, I can see here that the legal team, and certainly from a female perspective, the legal team has a higher percentage or proportion of associates who disagree around the area of manager effectiveness within the organization. But again, what if I wanted to break it down even further? So again, I'm going to drill down into the colors, or into the columns rather, and I'm going to add a new element in here, and I want to choose to color this, let's say, by position. Now, position within the system indicates whether or not an individual is in a managerial or a non-managerial role, and you'll see it's now breaking up my data even further in here and highlighting for me in here that I may have individuals in engineering roles or in non-managerial roles where those elements may or may not be a factor. And you'll see here I can choose to take a look and see for a department, example here like the engineering department, a significant distinction between our managerial and our non-managerial staff in how they feel about that. And again, if I want to take out some of these aggregations from the data, I can do so. So I'm just going to remove the gender element in here. Again, we'll take a look at all of the data, and you'll see here I have the ability to look at my data across multiple dimensions. So Talent Insights, powered by Watson Analytics, is all about making the data both visually available to the user, interactive to the user, allowing them to explore the data across a whole range of dimensions, but also to highlight to the user where there may be trends in the data that the tool is proactively recommending they take a look at, allowing them to actually drill down into that visualization now and see where we might have outliers in our data set.